What if I told you you could basically play like a StamPlar, but spec fully into mag? Basically be a roly-poly, roll around as much as you want, CC break as much as you want, and pop vigors on top of that, and not have to worry about your sustain. Well, do I have the build for you? Alright, now that was pretty nuts, right? I was literally moving around like a StamPlar, but as a mag build. Like, this build was so much fun. Like, it hit so hard. Sustain wasn't even a question. I was literally popping stam skills like nothing. You might be looking at that montage, it's like, oh my regime, are you really just popping stam skills like that? Look at your stam is so low, you're gonna get caught in CC and die. No. Why is that? Stick tuned to the build and I'll show you exactly why I don't care about my stam that much. But before we get started, if you guys can hit the subscribe and like button, it really does go a long way and really does help out the channel. Also leave a comment of what build videos you want to see next. But without further ado, let's puncture and sweep our way into the build. Alright, so for the back bar, we do run Rallying Cry. Hello, surprise, surprise. No surprise. I mean, come on, Rallying Cry is one of the best back bar sets in the entire game. While Battle Spirit is active, you get up to 300 weapon and spell damage and up to 1650 crit resist for 20 seconds. Yeah, and you can also give this to an ally with the small, I guess, quote unquote downside. You do reduce the potency, but that's still a lot. For our monster, we do run good old Balors because our sustain is so good, we can just pump out damage. That's what I love about this build. Balors, the more ultimate we have, the harder we hit. We can get up to 500 weapon and spell damage and up over 11k penetration at 500 ultimate, which is crazy. And Balor just lines up perfectly because when we drop our ultimates, that's when we're going for our burst. And Balor basically guarantees that we will burst them into oblivion. Obviously, we do run one piece training because any meta build always has a front bar, back bar setup with a Mythic. Gives us the most max health for one piece. Now, what is our front bar? For our front bar, we do run Order's Wrath. Order's Wrath is honestly one of the best sets in the entire game, and I'm surprised this thing hasn't caught a small nerf, to be honest. This thing is very, very strong. Gives us a lot of crit, and on the 5-piece, why not just grant us 2 5-pieces? Why not? And the main meat and potatoes of the set increases your critical damage and critical healing by 8%. So yeah, this thing makes you hit really hard, and it basically guarantees that you're almost critting all your hits. And now for the lo and behold Mythic, the Mythic that makes this build possible, that is, I don't know if you ever heard of it, Stormweaver's Cavern. This thing was one of the most, honestly, I'm just gonna say, this was the most fun Mythic I had ran in a long time. What exactly does it do? It makes your sprint, roll dodge, bash, break free, sneak, and block cost mag now. But now when you're blocking or sneaking, you no longer regen mag. So while you're blocking or sneaking, you now can regen stam now though. And if that wasn't enough, just grants you 300 mag recup on top of that. Because why not? Just, here you go. This is basically an actual Mundus we're getting on this build from this one Mythic. And honestly, this thing is crazy. So the way we run it, we do run a double dagger of Order's Wrath. 1 Nirnhone, 1 Sharpen. Please make the main hand Nirnhone, yes, it makes a difference. For my main hand, I do run an Absorb Stam enchant, can proc Minor Breach, nice stam recup too. And offhand, we do run just a Shock enchant because we're not always guaranteed to have Minor Vul on the target. For the back bar, we do run a Rallying Cry Ice Staff with an Onslaught enchant, basically does magic damage, gives us all 3 sustain, and defending, because tankiness is next to godliness. So for the body, we do run the typical 3-3-1, 3 heavy, 3 light, 1 medium. So for my heavy, I do run a heavy head of Balorgs and a heavy chest and feet of Order's Wrath. For my 1 medium, I do run a medium Balorg shoulder, and for my light, I do run a sash of the Order's Wrath, Rallying Cry gloves, and for my last light, I do run the Stormweaver's Cavern because it only comes in light. So for the traits, I do run 6 impen, 1 reinforced. Yes, 6 impen, 1 reinforced. The only reinforced I have is a heavy chest reinforced of Order's Wrath. Since we are running Rallying Cry, you could run well fitted, you could run reinforced on your heavy pieces, or any combination. That's what I like about builds. We fit to our playstyles. I just really love impen because of those pesky Nightblade gankers. So for the enchants, if you could try set all the pieces. If you can't do that, try set the big pieces. What I mean by that is head, chest, and legs. So for the jewelry, we do run a Rallying Cry neck and ring. And for my last ring, I do run a Ring of the Trainee. So for the traits, I do run all infused. And now for the enchants, it's up to you. If you are newer to Templar or your sustain's a little rough, I would recommend going 2 reduced mag cost and 1 spell damage. Please run spell damage. Since we are Templar, we do have access to 10% more spell damage. But if you're looking at this build and you're saying, no, I want damage, my sustain's fine, go a 2nd spell damage and you will be hitting really, really hard. So yeah, if you want damage, 2 spell damage. If you are newer or, sustain's not the best bet, a 2nd reduced mag cost is always strong. So for the food, we do run Bewitched Sugar Skulls. This food is honestly the best for this build. We don't even need Orzhovkas or Jewels of Mistral. If you want to, you can, but honestly, your sustain is so fine with this build. I found better success with this. Obviously, if you want, you could always run Orzhovkas or Jewels of Mistral, perfectly fine. So for the pots, we do run good old just Alliance spell pots. Yep, the ones you can buy from the siege merchants. So this pot basically gives us our mag and our 20% spell damage and 12% crit. Think about it, we don't need stam. We don't need stam sustain since roll, dodge, and CC break cost mag. There you go. So this is honestly really good on Templar since, we have access to minor sorcery. That's why we want major sorcery. All right, but enough of that, let's go over the skills now. So the skills and build will look very similar to the StamPlar build I did earlier. How can I want to use the mag morph of sweeps, but how can I do it? And then I saw Zoss answered my prayers by giving us that one mythic. And if you don't know what mythic we're talking about, go back to the sets. So the first skill we do run is Extended Ritual. This is what makes a Templar, a Purify with a nice hot on the ground that lasts a long time. Next we do run Power of the Light. I really love this skill. It gives us a nice burst window to targets. But the main thing is it also puts Minor Breach, which is almost 3k pen. So really good for burst and penetration. Oh. So next we do run Radiant Glory. Honestly, this is probably the best execute in the entire game, especially for pugs. This is a pug's worst nightmare because you can't roll dodge as execute. Most pugs' instincts when they see CC break is to roll dodge, and you always catch them with this Radiant Glory. So next, I do use Javelin. Now the morph is up to you. So I did run Binding Javelin because I like to keep my targets in place. I don't like knocking them away from my combo. And it does last longer. The only problem is our stam sustain isn't the best. You might be saying that sounds terrible. We don't use stamina to CC break anymore. So yeah, the only problem was our stam sustain was a little rough, but you could get dual wield heavies in. So if you are more an advanced player, I would go with Binding Javelin. But if you are more of a newer player or your stam sustain isn't the best, go with Aurora Javelin. Next skill we do run is Puncturing Sweep. So basically, yeah, this is basically our spammable. That heals us for almost 40% of the damage done. Look at that. Almost half of the damage we do with this skill we heal. And that's why I wanted to play MagPlar, because of this. But why not be able to play a MagPlar as a roly-poly? Next we do run Dawnbreaker Smiting. This is our big hard-hitting ultimate. Does a lot of damage, stuns him, and puts a nasty dot on him. And gives us some nice passes for having slotted. So for our back bar we do run Channeled Focus. This is basically our armor skill that gives us, sustain and a heal if we're inside of it. Next we do run Elusive Mist. I just can't get Elusive Mist off my bar. I love Elusive Mist so much. It's kind of sad to see what's going to happen to Elusive Mist, but hey, the skill was broken for a long time and I understand where it's coming. Obviously, if you don't want to run Elusive Mist or you just don't like the toggles, you could run a race against time, perfectly fine. I just love Mist. I live and die by the Mist. Next skill we do run is Resolving Vigor. Obviously, this is our burst hop that also grants us minor resolve for 20 seconds. Next we do run Elemental Stability. This skill is kind of bonkers in why everyone runs an Ice Staff back bar. Because not only does it put Major Breach on the target, it puts Minor Vol on the target, but most importantly, it puts Chilled on the target. Which, if you put Chilled on a target with an Ice Staff equipped, you put Minor Brittle on them, making them take 10% more crit damage. Next we do run Honor the Dead. Please run this more. Please run Honor the Dead. The other one, Breath of Life, will mag you out. This is basically our burst heal. That gives us some nice sustain on this morph. And for our back bar ultimate, Temporal Guard, just for the passive. Grants you minor protection while slotted. Alright, but enough of that, let's go over the stat sheets. So we are in PvP, obviously, because we do need Battle Spirit active. So there we are. These max stats are really nice. Honestly, you don't see that many max stats, like almost 27k mag, stams at almost 20k, max health, typical 32k health. But our recup might not seem like much, but you do have to realize we are going into reduced costs, so that's where we go. Oh, remember, we don't care about our stam recup since we don't CC break or block with stam anymore. Obviously, if you do need more stam, we do have a dual wield on the front bar. Alright, so let's just proc up real quick. So our spell damage is just shy of 5200. Might not seem much, but you have to realize we're spec'd into crit damage and critical chance. Look at our crit. We're at 47% crit. So now let's check our resistance on our back bar real quick. So our back bar, we do have over 30k spell resist, and our physical resist at 26.8k, and our crit resist is at 3732. That's like around 58% damage mitigation from crit bonus. So for our attributes, we do have 32 points in net max mag and 32 points in health. I feel like this was just the perfect way to round out. You know, always push that max health up. So for the Mundus, we do run the Shadow. For this build, I absolutely love the Shadow. It made us hit super hard. If you are having stam sustain issues, you could always run the Serpent. That's always really good. Or you could run the Atra if you are having max sustain issues. But honestly, I would prefer to go 2 reduced mag cost before you do that. Or even a 3rd one. The Shadow is just too much damage to pass up on. And it also affects your heals. Obviously, we are a stage 3 vampire because of one simple passive. On death. The lower health we are, the tankier we become. Now for the race, I am a Breton. Honestly, I felt Breton was the strongest for this build. 2k max mag. Gives us 2300 spell resist, which can double if we're reflected with Burning Shoulder or Concuss. And why not put a passive on top of a passive? 130 mag recup. Here you go. Okay. And most importantly, Magicka Mastery. Reduces the mag cost of your abilities by 7%. Very strong. What I like about Breton is the sustain. The other alternative obviously would be Khajiit. Khajiit would slap with this build. Since we are spec'd really high into crit, Khajiit would benefit the most from it. You could go Dark Elf. Dark Elf could be good. But yeah, I would probably stay away from the others though, to be honest. Alright, but enough of that. Let's go over the CP now. Alright, so for our blue CP, we do a Fighting Finesse. Increases critical damage, critical healing by up to 8%. Focus Many increases our healing done with single target heals. Master at Arms increases our damage done with direct damage attacks. Ironclad reduces damage taken for direct damage attacks. Now for the red CP, we do run Celerity, increases our movement speed by up to 10%. Honestly, the best CP in the entire game. Next, Survival Instincts. While afflicted with a status effect, our core combat skills cost up to 25% less. Relentlessness, gain major protection after being stunned. And Pain's Refuge. The more negative effects we have active on us, the tankier we become. And for the green CP, I mean, doesn't ever really matter. Rationer, Liquid Efficiency, Gifted Rider, and Steve's Blessing. Alright, but enough of that. But cool beans, I hope you did enjoy the video. Honestly, I'm absolutely loving this MagPlar build. Like you're literally playing a StamPlar, but as a Magic version. Because of this Mythic. Like that Mythic Stormweaver's Cavert. Oh my Regine, is that one of the most fun Mythics I've ever used. On top of that, it gives you 300 mag recup because why not? Why? Like honestly, if you haven't farmed that Mythic, please farm that Mythic. This build was so much fun. The thing is, the problem with this build is you have to run this Mythic. You cannot do this build without this Mythic. You maybe can change it out for marking if you do put tripods on maybe. But even then, like this build is just perfect. It works so well and I absolutely love this build. And I hope you guys do too. Hope you did enjoy the build video. Like the video if you liked it. Comment your thoughts or experiences with the build. Also anything I might have missed out. Subscribe for more. But most importantly, stay Zerg.